because it's actually crazy. We'll get the tractors looking so good, and then sometimes like the farmer's wife will come in and see it, and she's like, "Oh, can you do my Tahoe while you're here?" I guess. Don't really want to, because seriously, me and my guys, we hate doing vehicles, like absolutely.
Hello, and welcome to yet another Main Show podcast here at the Rag Company Podcast YouTube channel, where we're joined by Anthony. I know I have to quit making like a big deal out of it, but it's still a big deal.
It's momentous. He's able to sit. It's not just you and me. Everybody gets to, they wonder. They go, "Where's Anthony? When's he coming back? When's he getting there?" And here he is.
Yeah.
Live and in the flesh.
Live and in the flesh. Being able to sit, that's the craziest thing. I mean, honestly, out of all the crap, I mean, there was like 3 months of hell, but I mean, out of all of that, I would say one of the worst parts is just not being able to sit upright, which you take for granted every single day.
Yeah,
absolutely.
You don't realize you do so many things sitting, and just being able to sit without pain is like pretty insane. So that's why I'm excited to be able to sit down here and be able to do this again and build up that butt muscle density.
Well, to your credit, each time we've done this, you've been able to sit a little longer.
A little longer. It's like baby steps, learning how to walk again. It's like I'm getting there. But to your point though, Dane, no, super excited for today's podcast. I think it's gonna be a good one.
I'm excited to show it to you guys. So without any further ado, let's kick right over to it. Hello, and welcome to yet another Main Show here, where I've got the full slew. I got the guys. Mm-hmm. Anthony is back in the chair here. It's great to see you, Anthony. But as important as you may be, there's an even more important person here, kind of in the room with us.
Yeah, thank you, Dane.
Guest. Let's look over here. Oh my goodness, we have Spencer Maeschen here with us. And if you're not familiar, Spencer, why do you think we brought you on the podcast here? What do you bring to the table that makes you unique amongst the detailing audience that we frequently interact with?
I mean, if I had to guess, Dane, I would say it's because that we specialize in ceramic coating farm equipment and stuff.
That's a pretty good guess.
I would say we also refer to him as Tractor Spencer.
Yeah, well, we got a couple Spencers, so you're Tractor Spencer.
Anthony's got Pablo Concrete for all his concrete needs. Yeah, we got Tractor Spencer for all your tractor detailing needs.
Yeah, true, very true.
It's a solid way to go. But Spencer, thank you for joining us. Appreciate you taking the time here. I really like seeing the Alfa Giulia behind you there. Nice little quadrifoglio, looks cool. Is that a car you own, or is that just some art that's showing up in the background?
That's just some art, because I had a guy, he came and did like photo shoots for like a month for my shop, and that car just so happened to be here. So I just blew it up and printed it off, and I got like 4 other ones that I just need to do. Been waiting for like 2 years.
Yeah.
All right. Well,
it's a dope car. Yeah.
The only reason I really wanted to point it out was that that's not a tractor, so I didn't expect that, but that's cool. I love that.
Well, he's got some toys back there.
Look at that.
Spencer, have you ever gotten a tractor as glossy as that car behind you? Gosh, that's hard to say, because that car did have PPF on it, so it was almost like a cheat. PPF, that's a little extra. But I've come close, I'll say.
Okay, all right.
I just didn't know if you got that John Deere green dripping wet one day, you know what I mean? Where it was just, mirrors shine, see a reflection.
You had to put sunglasses on because it was just like,
No, but so Spencer, we're super excited to have you on here. Obviously, you chime in on the podcast all the time, right? Whether it's the podcast or the Q&A, and you're in there answering questions or just providing feedback, and we obviously really appreciate you doing that. Without people like you, right, I don't think our podcast would exist, and so it only makes sense to bring you on here to highlight what you do and to kind of talk about this essentially kind of strange industry, right?
Like
this how you got started, how you got into it. Basically, we want to know your whole story. We want to know what it was like for you as a kid growing up, what your first job was. I mean, we're starting from the beginning.
But we only have an hour though, so I mean, you probably got to somewhat bite size.
Give us something good. That's all we're saying.
Okay. He's like I was born at 6 pounds.
First, let's tell the public who you are, what you do, and what your normal business is, what it is.
Yeah. So basically, my name is Spencer Maeschen. I own Mad Garage.
kind of got that name because a few years ago I saw some bald guy washing a blue M3. I think you guys all know who I'm talking about. And basically that's what almost started all of this, because I had a black car at the time. I was in college working at a used car dealership, detailing cars for 10, 15 bucks an hour, and no air compressor. Had a steamer though, and a big extractor that the hose leaked out of. And I would basically go in there on the weekends with my buddies' cars, get some extra cash on the side, and just kind of went, I would say, uphill from there. I wouldn't say downhill, but I guess in a way, after all that, after college, I got into a motorcycle crash and I got charged with like a reckless or careless driving. This has been 6 years ago now. So when I went to go do my internship for John Deere, because I was going to school for precision ag at the time, basically they couldn't insure me, so I couldn't graduate. So,
dang.
I said, yeah, I'm done with this. And I was skipping class at the same time to go work anyways. So
yeah,
I just had to make a decision and started the business in 2019. Actually used my stimulus check to buy a Krenzla. It's my first pressure washer. And yeah, I was doing it by myself, and now I got 4 employees, and yeah.
Pretty crazy. What's funny is you say you started this in 2019. First, I think everybody's on the same page that when we hear 2019, I go, oh man, like 2 years ago? That's crazy, right? I'm like,
we just kind of
3 years ago.
A couple more years.
It's hard to remember. It's hard to think that was 5 years ago, which is 2019 doesn't sound like that long ago, and truly it was 5 years ago. So over the last 5 years, you've gotten 4 employees. Obviously, you put a ton of work. Where's the business located at?
So it's located basically in central South Dakota. Mitchell, South Dakota is the actual town name. So 4 hours from Omaha, 4 hours from Fargo, 4 hours from Minneapolis. It's just if you were to take all 3 of those points, Mitchell's right there.
Okay. So now for the people listening, and for even myself, South Dakota. I know nothing about South Dakota at all. My brother lived in Omaha for like a year, and I know he traveled a little bit, but he kind of just told me most of what Nebraska was like. South Dakota, couldn't even tell you. What's the landscape look like? Is it mostly farmland? Is there big cities? Is there anything like that?
So the biggest city we have is Sioux Falls, which is about 45 minutes away from here.
Okay.
And I think that only has like 750,000. We don't have 1 million people in the state. I know that. But like cattle outnumber us. I think it's 3 to 1.
Oh, wow. Sounds like Boise 30 years ago.
People talk about Idaho like nobody lives here. I mean, the Dakotas get kind of a similar treatment.
Yeah.
But at least they had a cool movie made about them called Fargo. But
yeah. Well,
yeah, true.
So your day to day then, I mean, how far are you traveling for work? How far are you traveling to the details? And I'm assuming you're treating these as mobile jobs because you're not bringing tractors to your shop or your home.
Yeah, that's the next move is to, once I kind of build a shop here, I can maybe start leveraging getting them shipped to me, because it's pretty rare if a farmer has air conditioning. Now, granted, one of the shops we were in was 150 by 500 feet long. Okay. So, fully insulated, heated concrete floors. I mean, more lights than you can imagine. But, we'll travel just about anywhere if it makes sense. We haven't been to Texas and we haven't been to Colorado, but I do have some guys in Australia somehow that found me that want me to come out there, which is weird. I guess I didn't quite know that there was farming in Australia, but there is.
Oh, yeah.
But typically around 5 to 6 hours is what we'll travel out to.
Wow. That's
not to say we've been to Illinois quite a few times, but we'll line up jobs on the way there. So it's not, we're going out there for one person. There's multiple people on the way there and on the way back that will hit.
Yeah.
Wow. That's wild.
Yeah, that is wild. Really interesting. So I guess I hadn't taken into account the fact that, for most of the work you're doing, you would be going to the source rather than it coming to you.
Yeah. Right. What would, if you had to, if somebody named Jeremy Clarkson hit you up who has a farm and said, hey, can you come out and coat my Lamborghini tractor, right? What does that look like? So you pack up your stuff, you polish your compound, you have your coatings, everything you need, and you're just going there. Are you getting a hotel? Are you getting
first he's landing in London.
Oh,
he's swinging out to Aldershot, hitting up John at Clean and Shiny, getting fully stocked.
Yes, he is.
Much easier than shipping everything. You head to cleanandshiny.co.uk, pick up everything he needs.
Total sense.
And then they'll head north from there.
So just give us a run. I mean, are you packing bags? How long do you plan these jobs for? Does anything take longer than you think it takes? And how many tractors usually on occasion are you doing in one run?
So there's a lot of variables there.
Okay.
I mean, we've even had it where, so some of these farmers around here, they'll actually hire out South Africans to come help in the harvest and planting time. So they'll have, 2 or 3 houses that are just empty throughout the year. So they'll actually just throw them in there. We actually had a guy, he owned a hotel. He owned his own hotel on some farm ground. So we stayed there for free. Otherwise, it's mostly Airbnbs. We used to do hotels, and then our newest employee snores so bad that we just couldn't stay in the same room as him. So that's when we switched to Airbnbs.
Solid. But I know the feeling. I know the feeling. Dane
and I this year got to share a room at SEMA, and it was the first time neither of us were woken up by the other person. It was amazing.
You didn't complain about me. I didn't complain about.
It was amazing.
I don't have an issue with other people snoring.
Yeah, we were both sawing logs left and right, and it was awesome. It was crazy.
But enough about us. We want to hear your process.
Yeah. So it just really depends. Every tractor is different. If you think that you're going to go into a job and like, oh yeah, I did that John Deere 8345R a month ago. I know it takes me 5 hours. It'll take you double that if you go in with that mindset. Mm-hmm. So you always just got to prepare for the worst, because you could literally have 2 tractors. One's a year old but came from Texas. That tractor will take 3 times as long as one that is 5 years old in Nebraska. Completely.
Is that like an elemental thing, like the particular climate in that area is affecting the vehicle differently?
Yeah.
It's like a car. It's where it's parked, where they store it,
the amount of sunlight,
how often it's cleaned, how often it's washed, what the terrain is like, what it's getting stuck by,
what chemicals it's exposed to.
That too, because like even in Texas, it doesn't snow there, so they have no reason to build sheds at all.
Okay.
So everything just sits outside and just gets baked and obviously fades and oxidizes.
Interesting.
So when you jump into a detail, let's just say, you're not pressure washing. I'm assuming you're just your rinseless washing. What are you doing to clean the surface before polishing?
Yeah. So I always tell the farmer, get it as clean as you can. If there's any dirt anywhere, we're just going to coat over top of the dirt, and that gets them enticing to really clean it. I have had it where they'll have a pressure washer set up and they go, hey, can you wash it? And I go, sure, I can, but it's going to cost you $300 an hour that I'm doing it. And they were like, yeah, no, I'll gladly do it for my time versus paying you $300 an hour. So typically when we show up, there's always just a light layer of dust, no matter what, because typically they'll wash it 2 to 3 days beforehand. Mm-hmm. And we'll always do like a rinseless wash on all the pieces. On the plastics, though, we'll actually take a blue, those Scotch-Brite pads almost that you use for cleaning dishes. So we'll use that with a mixture of all-purpose cleaner.
Typically, up the oxidation.
Correct, yeah, because you can literally scrub it off, and you could take a brand new towel, wipe it across, and it'll turn green or red or whatever the color is of that farm equipment, and it just pulls everything off. It's almost like that's basically our clay step, is getting rid of that first top layer of paint. Yeah. That way we're not having to bust through trying to cut through so much of it.
So Spencer, when I was 14, 15, my dad taught me how to do that and how to cut oxidation with Scotch-Brite or Comet. And then when I was 16-ish, I washed his Supra, and I was like, oh, I'll just do this because it looked kind of dull. And I didn't. And it was clear coat, and I took the Scotch-Brite to the clear coat. Yeah. Needless to say, that weekend I learned how to use a rotary for the first time. So had to buff all that back out. But yeah, no, a lot of people don't understand that trick with oxidation.
Yeah. That does open up an interesting opportunity for you, doesn't it? Yeah. Being able to work on a vehicle where you can do that versus one where the finish is more of a delicate concern.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely weird not having to like use an iron mover or clay or anything like that. We still pack it because it's actually crazy. We'll get the tractors looking so good, and then sometimes like the farmer's wife will come in and see it, and she's like, oh, can you do my Tahoe while you're here? Every farmer's wife has a Tahoe, Suburban, or Ford Expedition. Every single one of them. It's like,
Yeah.
I mean, I guess don't really want to, because seriously, me and my guys, we hate doing vehicles now. Like absolutely hate them.
That's
Yeah.
interesting. That's really interesting.
So you'll have a clean tractor. That's crazy. First and foremost, that's crazy that you have them do it. I mean, I would assume it's probably part of the package, but I mean, like the fact that you're just like, oh no, get it clean for me. I'm like, that's nice.
And $300 an hour.
Yeah, and $300
A
an
lot
hour
of
if I have to do it.
can't pull that one
Yeah,
off.
no, yeah, you
with
can't.
the
Yeah,
car setup.
you can't pull that off at all. So then you go in, you'll Scotch Brite it, and then you'll go into polishing, right? So you are polishing
Yes.
everything. So
Correct.
So then give me a rundown of the product and pad that you're using.
So if it's really gnarly, we'll actually use a rotary maximum of like 1,000 to 1,200 RPM, not wide open, but really long wool fibers. You don't want to use microfiber because heat is the enemy when it comes to single stage. And you can actually get it to where you can heat up that panel and it'll hide the oxidation, and you come back the next morning and it'll look like you never touched it. Because that's the other issue too, is sometimes we'll get tractors in, we might be doing 5-6 tractors for a farmer and we're just rolling through them. We have to pull them in and let them cool off because the heat from the motor is over the hood and all the vents and air extractions that they have. We have to let that tractor cool off for a few hours before we can even start working on it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was
Typically rotary wool for cut, and then DA actually to kind of finish, or that might be a 1.5 step. It depends how bad it is.
Yeah.
And that's if you actually do the polishing. There is some new stuff coming out, like from C6 and stuff like that, where they're actually spraying on. It almost looks like a clear coat, and it's just hiding everything, and it's bonding to that oxidized surface and making it look better, but worse than I could. Because it's making it look better because it's covering up the oxidation versus we remove it.
Yeah.
But
Sure.
the issue with spraying it is that you just get that orange peely texture. And I'm not convinced yet. Maybe talk to me next year and I might be changed. But
So what compound are you using?
so we are using a mixture of, it could be anything from DIY. Was it Gold Standard? I think is what that one is. They're polished or spray polish. So the coating company we use is Roar, and they came out with their own compound that doesn't have any hydrocarbon solvents or like oils.
Yeah.
Because we used to use Rupes and Oberk. Later to come find out, it had so many oils that it was depositing it into the surface. It was hiding the oxidation. So making sure you have a compound or a polish that doesn't have those oils in it is like big.
Yeah. Okay. And then as far as like, I'm assuming these pads are getting gunked up like crazy. Like even the wool rotary pads are just getting absolutely trashed. Are you cleaning them out on the fly? Or are you just running them until they die and throwing on a new one? How does that work?
Both. So we have 4 pad washers, one for each guy, right? And every guy's got 1 DA, 1 rotary, and a whole slew of pads. I factor 1 tractor, you're going to blow through about 3 wool pads and maybe 2 foam. And that's in your
person?
6.5. What's that? Just combined, usually for a group of 4. Yep. So, and that's
pretty good.
That's better than I thought. That's why I said
as
per
good
person.
as as good as a car. Well, I mean, granted, I'm assuming these rotary pads are pretty big, right?
Oh yeah, they're all 6.5, 7. Yeah,
They're full-size rotary pads.
Ones.
Yeah, gotcha.
Hey, nice.
Whoa,
what's going on there?
No, that's cool.
Weird.
Fireworks.
Some
When
Apple effects,
when
I
you
guess.
give thumbs up, I think it do it one more time. Give us a thumbs up.
Now that.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah, nice. Now we know the fireworks are because he gave a thumbs up. All right. I was.
yeah.
Oh, I was just curious. Like during this process, because with cars, it's one thing. Say like people with a fleet, they can rotate the vehicles through. But with how expensive farm equipment can be, I guess it depends on the size of the farm. But in terms of like downtime and how much the farmer's willing to give in terms of like this vehicle's out of commission for this amount of time, is there an expectation in place for kind of turnaround times, things like that, how much it affects their day-to-day operations when a vehicle's out of commission, so to speak?
Not really, just because farmers only use it for 3 months out of the entire year. unless they're doing something in the summer, like cutting silage or putting up hay. But typically, like the big tractors, they're only using them in the spring for a month and then in the fall for a month. Otherwise, they're sitting in the shed all winter. They're sitting in a shed all summer. I mean, I wouldn't say it's rare. Yeah. They're not using it.
Oh, sorry, didn't mean to cut you off. I was going to say, so then it leads to essentially the question of, okay, does this mean your operation as a whole is extremely seasonal? I mean, I kind of expected that with it being, farmers, tractors, that kind of thing. But with the number of regions you're operating around, those kinds of things, are you essentially stuck with like very heavy months and then very, very lean months? And what do you do during those lean times?
I'd say winter's our busiest time for sure.
Makes sense.
Spring is okay, and then fall I would say is probably our most dead time because that's when you're using everything.
That's when everybody's using it. Yeah.
Versus, winter time you can do any piece of equipment out on the farm. Springtime you can do combines because nobody's using them until early of July for wheat harvest, and then they're using the tractors to plant or turbo till, stuff like that. And then summertime, kind of whatever, and then fall, almost everything's out getting used except for sprayers. So yeah.
Okay. Yeah. No, that was just something that kept popping up in my head. It's like, okay, how does your calendar look on a year scale where it's kind of like, okay, we're busy, suddenly just a big gap of, okay, what do we do with this time? But I was curious. So during those kind of more dead times, are you working on regular vehicles to kind of fill the gaps, or is it just, we did just fine with what the tractor jobs paid, so we don't really need to worry about trying to fill the whole calendar?
No, we'll typically pivot and start doing the exact same farmers' boats and semis.
Ah, okay. So that's
because almost every farmer has a boat.
Go figure. Yeah, they got to have leisure somewhere, right?
Yeah.
It's a lot of hard work.
Have you ever had a farmer customer, not understand the benefit of what you're doing, or maybe they don't visually see the difference?
A guy, like a buddy of a buddy, like, this is my friend. He's got the farm 2 doors over. He wanted to come see what you were doing.
Or I mean, just you finish the job and you hand them the bill and they go, so what did you do? Like, is there anything? Do they understand or they don't understand? I guess that's what I'm trying to figure out.
So what's funny? So like the whole job of coating, right, is to protect the equipment, not having to wax it again, stop it from fading again, all the other stuff. I kid you not. Yesterday, my guys, they're up about an hour away doing a sprayer. And the farmer texted me and goes, hey, when this is all done, do I still need to wax this? And I'm like, do you know what you just got? Like, I was so confused. But it's pretty rare if they don't quite know what they're getting. Because in layman terms, I just say, hey, your tractor's not going to fade again. Just think about this as a wax on steroids, because that's what they're so used to.
Yeah. Sure. Do they, so, I mean, I know everyone wants to protect their equipment. Obviously, it's an investment, right? Do they feel the same way about these tractors as we would a car? I mean, because that's where, it's like me coating my lawnmower. I coated my lawnmower because I'm just a crazy person. I just think whatever, I had extra coating, right? That's why I did it. But to most everyday people, they would be like, well, it's a lawnmower. It's something that sits outside. It's something that honestly it gets used, abused, and then I buy a new one. Like, are they all very adamant on protecting their equipment because it's an investment, or are they doing it because it seems like the right thing to do because they don't want to wax it?
Both.
Okay.
It's because like the sprayer my guys are doing up in Aberdeen, it has See and Spray. So it's got these cameras on the booms that can see the weed and only sprays the weed. That option from John Deere is $200,000 as an option. It's like the whole machine itself is probably worth like 1.3, maybe 1.4 million. So, I mean, it made sense for him to spend a couple $1,000s. Well, I say a couple, but 1% of what it's worth to stop the booms from corroding and for just everything getting gnarly here in 4 or 5 years.
Yeah. That's just a responsible owner decision at that point.
Yeah.
That just
do you find that
it makes sense?
Do you find that the dealerships are, you're getting leads from them, or they're trying to sell a variation of a coating or a sealant? They're not doing that? Not like the cars are?
No, not at all. I'm actually in talks with about 4 different dealerships right now of getting this coating offered as like an add-on. Not necessarily that the dealership goes, hey, we're installing this. It's more like, hey, John here bought a $750,000 quad track. He's okay with spending $5,000 to get it coated. Dealership might get $500 and that gets split among the service or the store and the salesman. And then we would just come in and code it there.
Yeah. No, that's what I'm. Yeah. So you're getting the lead
generation.
Yeah. It'd be that. But it's what I used to do with my dealerships and stuff. But yeah, I just didn't know if the dealership was offering like the way they are at cars now. Like you can't walk into a car dealership without them trying to sell you whatever it is, whether it's a spray-on wax that they're calling a coating or they're whatever they're doing. So I didn't know if that had gotten into permeated that market yet.
No. The biggest thing with ag equipment, like as like an add-on, is really warranties and stuff. That's really where they make the money.
Okay,
they don't care about it at all.
Nice.
And to the greater point of what's being said here, as far as like lead generation, that kind of thing, you've not to say you're the first person to ever have this idea to coat tractors or anything like that. I mean, obviously you do very well at it and people keep coming back to you. But as far as how you arrived at the original idea to do this stuff, how did that come about? You had some familiarity with farm equipment before you got around? Because obviously you lived a life before 2019. You're not 5 years old. So there's clearly a life before that. What led to that?
Well, I was born and raised on a farm, and I remember spending every winter waxing my dad's silage cutter or tractors. I mean, I would spend 3 days with a Walmart thing that had the bonnet on it and whatnot. And I don't know. And then I went to college, like I said, and was detailing stuff there and coating maybe a car a year, maybe. Okay. And then just kind of took the best of both, and here I am, I guess.
No, that's cool. That makes perfect sense in a very succinct way. I was just curious because it's not like you find amongst the crowd of people who comment on our stuff typically who are detailing cars. They're not necessarily having a whole lot of interactions with farm equipment, so it makes sense that most people don't branch off that way. So clearly something was different about your experience that led you there. So I was just curious to kind of pick up on that.
Yeah, well, it's not even really like the dollar figures. It truly is just like the passion, because there's been times where we've literally partied with the farmer in his shop until 3 a.m, and he had to go feed cattle in like 3 hours or something like that. And it's just a different environment. Everybody's been nice to us. We've never once had a bad guy, get angry or upset with us. It's just
how many car detailers can say that?
No, not a lot. I mean, the car people can be kind of crazy.
Yeah.
What I was going to ask is there ever any situations where, you do a job or you do a coating and let's just say it gets water spots on it and the person's like, hey, so how do I get rid of these? Or is there maintenance stuff involved in follow-up after this job is done?
Yeah. So the tricky thing is that with farm equipment, right, you have fertilizers, you have cattle manure, you got dirt. I mean, everything's completely different to a car that on the asphalt, right? A car might get a little bit of tar here and there versus a tractor or a tracked one with exposed tracks. There's no fender well liners on these things. Yeah. So if you get tar, it's the whole side of it. It's not just a little fender well liner, dozen spots here and there. So it's definitely a little bit of maintenance. I try to just tell people, hey, look, the coating is porous like your skin. If after a year or so something doesn't seem right, just call me. And that's kind of where the coating company that we work with, they actually just came out with like a line of soaps, because there's nothing on the market for ceramic coated agriculture soaps, right? Everything is geared towards automotive. Because you want something strong to break down the oils and the grease on the back ends of these things, or to break down the residue between the wheels or whatever that's been on there for the last 2 years.
Yeah, or break down all the organic material.
Yeah.
Or you want it safe enough that's not going to hurt the coating. So it just, I don't know, it's different. We haven't had any problems with water spotting yet, because most of these farmers that are spending this amount of money, they'll actually invest, or after talking to them, they actually get spot-free tanks. It's just this 55-gallon jug that has a filter. They fill it up, and then it just has a garden hose pump outlet on it, and then they'll just rinse the equipment off with that when they're done washing it.
Oh, cool.
That's
yeah.
cool.
That's good.
That's cool. Yeah, that's a good idea. Yeah, I just didn't know what kind of follow-up maintenance would be done because I mean that's every detailer's day, right? You know, they finished a job last week and it's a call, hey, park next to a sprinkler. What do I do now?
Yeah,
Right.
or-
And then it's your problem. And so I just
Next
didn't
to an
know.
industrial sprinkler.
Or I'd get cars all the time that would come from the potato fields
Oh yeah.
because we're in Idaho, and so it's all potatoes here. But you'd get cars that would come from the potato fields that would be covered in hard water spots.
Yep.
And the joke was it's called potato water.
Yeah.
And it's
Starchy.
and it's but it's literally just this water that would get sprayed on a car and it would completely create the most insane hard water spots in the world. And the farmers their cars and trucks would be covered in it because it was this irrigation water.
Yeah.
And that's what they would hit their sprinklers and whatnot, but they'd trade their cars in and you go, oh, these were farm
I'm
cars.
guessing those scenarios called for maybe something bordering on a
It's
acid bath.
pure straight acid.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
That's
Like
why I'm
before-
curious. Have you had to do that kind of thing pretty regularly?
Yeah.
I love using acid on wheels. It's the greatest thing ever.
yeah.
It's wild how much fun it is until you get to my age and then your
Yeah.
bones start
Your body doesn't
deteriorating.
like it. Your bones don't like it so much.
Yeah.
So what other what other services do you offer? So basically you'll obviously polish, you'll obviously coat. Do you do anything with interiors? Do you do anything with windows? Do you need to have like chip repair or touch up paint or anything like that?
That's a good question.
So I also tint windows. I'm pretty damn dangerous when it comes time to like automotive, but I can also tint farm equipment because they don't care that it's going to maybe cost them $2 or $3 grand to tint the windows on the tractor. But I also one piece it versus some tinters will actually two piece it because you gotta understand these doors on these tractors are 6 foot tall. You have to be able to walk in these things.
Yeah, it's a house door almost.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. It's crazy. So you got to order a 60-inch roll. It barely covers it. But
Okay.
I'd say every once in a while I might get a farmer that will ask me to do the interior. I just go, no, it's not what I'm about. Because I just tell them I specialize in the paint. Like, you don't want somebody that, oh, hey, I can do the interior and the paint. Like, you want almost like a specialist to do that. Or it's like even the stickers sometimes can peel off from their pressure washers and stuff. They'll ask me to, hey, can you replace the stickers? I look around and I find a vinyl guy and I pay him $100 and he'll come slap them on. 'Cause it's not my specialty to put vinyl
That's
stickers.
interesting. Yeah.
No, that makes sense.
Nice.
So how booked out are you for the rest of the year? I mean, are you relatively booked, or are you always trying to find jobs to get on the schedule, the docket?
Oh yeah, I'm always trying to find jobs. Last year around this time, I was probably about 4 months out. Right now, I don't know if it's the farm economy or election or it could be any number of things. But right now, I'm about a month and a half out.
Okay.
Okay.
Pretty good.
And back to our
And you're also getting right into the start of harvest.
yeah.
So
that
Coming
makes
up.
sense.
Yep.
yeah.
Yep.
So it may slow down a little more for that reason.
So
Yeah.
going back to the lead generation question, then in those instances, have you found that it's almost entirely word of mouth, or going beyond with you're talking to the dealerships there? What is the general kind of lead generation principle for you?
It's kind of mixed. So word of mouth, like a lot of times what will actually happen is we might get a vehicle, or I should say for like local customers, we'll coat their brand new Corvette. This one farmer, he got a brand new Corvette. We coated it. I was like, oh, just talking to him. And he's like, oh yeah, I got to go back and, get going planting. And I was like, oh, you farm? And he's like, yeah, I do. And I go, well, I'll give you this Corvette that we coated for you for free if we do 2 tractors for you. And he bit right on that. He didn't care.
Wow. Yeah.
Okay.
Nice.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
that's an interesting
And then-
hook.
Yeah, and then word of mouth is pretty popular. Just because all these farmers, they're always BSing with each other, stopping at the neighbor's place once a week or whatever.
Sure.
So word of mouth is pretty popular too. But otherwise, Facebook marketing, Instagram, stuff like that, just general.
Well-
Try to hit everything I can.
Yeah, and that helps explain some of the more distant customers that you were kind of describing there? Because I was curious, like how you arrive at having somebody in, Australia or somebody pick up on your services. If that's just they happen to run across it online, what sort of marketing are you doing for yourselves?
Yeah, I mean, YouTube. I'm trying to grow the YouTube channel. That way, I can start marketing on it and everything. But yeah, that's the next venture for sure is YouTube.
Okay. Cool. Well, I'll give you a second. If you want to shout it out here, people can go check it out. So what's the name of it?
I'd have to actually look. I'm pretty sure it's Mad Garage. Just Mad Garage, actually. Yeah. Because our Instagram is Mad Garage Official, and I always get those two mixed up.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. So looking for the tractor detailing there. But it's something that's a bit unique. I know there are other folks who have done it, obviously. Mm-hmm. I don't want to discount their work, but you're obviously somebody who's passionate about it, and that's a big reason why we wanted you here today, is kind of address some of the questions, too, that I saw posted online. You threw out that post on Facebook kind of asking around to see if people had some things that they wanted to ask you specifically about it, maybe stuff that we hadn't covered yet. But if you guys were going to ask something first, go ahead. I just know you had a big list of things to touch on.
I was just going to say where the company's gone in the last 5-6 years. And with the idea that you've said of building a new shop, YouTube, that kind of stuff, or building your own shop, what else do you see for the business and for yourself as to where do you want to go with this? Do you want to make it so that it stays, like you said, you have tractors come in, or do you want to continue to keep this kind of rough and tumble? We're going to be able to go to your place. We're going to be able to knock stuff out for you. Because you also have a kid on the way.
Yep, I do.
And life changes very drastically when that happens from a couple of dads.
Yes, it does.
So how are you foreseeing, what is the game plan with all of that? What are you thinking? What are your thoughts? So this will be great to look back in 5 years when you've gotten a wrangle on a kid, possibly a second, you never know. But point is you go, holy crap, I got all that stuff done.
How close did you stick to the plan? Or was there one?
Or, oh my gosh, I can't believe I thought we could do that. Yeah. So.
Yeah. I'd say I definitely want to hire 2 more guys. So I actually have an employee. He's been with me now for 3, maybe 4 years, roughly.
Solid.
And he's been, and he's like rock star employee. I don't think I could ever find anybody better than him. He'll even ask me like, hey, what's this farmer's number? I need to call him about this. Like, I don't have to take care of anything at this point. So I would say I want to get him up to trained on tinting windows. That'd be nice, because that's kind of like the last thing I do. It's almost like a hobby for me now. Yeah. But I'd say do that, and then hire 1 more person to be full-time interiors back home here, just to serve the town. And because there's a need for it. There's only 1 other actual professional detail shop. And then everybody else is your weekend warrior, $120 inside and out kind of guy. Yeah. So I would say that would probably be the goal. And then realistically, just have a mix up of everything in the summertime, get stuff sent to us because we have air conditioning here. Yeah. And then in the wintertime and the rest of the year, go out to all these other places.
Nice. Yeah, dig it.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. That's really cool. So, what questions were people asking?
Yeah, I know he had his post on Facebook there. I don't know if you had a chance to pull it up while we were talking.
Yeah.
But there were a few. So, if you want to touch on some of those, just to kind of get viewer questions in there.
Yeah, so Steve over here goes, how do you price the different size tractors versus sprayers, balers, planters, and other oddball things that aren't just a tractor?
Implements. And
that one, that one just depends, because you take a planter, for instance, that's $500,000. Well, I charge more than $5-6 grand to coat that, because it's so intricate. There's so many lines, so many beams, and on a 36 row you would have 72 little members like this that keep all the downforce. There's 2 every unit, so it's kind of different in terms of pricing out the smaller stuff.
Well, you got 2 little pictures where 2 little toys behind you.
Oh, yeah.
You can demonstrate. You can show the differences.
Yeah. I think what he's meaning is like implements, or like pull behind, like what you would attach behind it. But like something like this, we'd probably charge anywhere from 4750 to $6,000, right in that range. Just depends the condition of it, whether it's a Deere or a case. And then something like this guy, I mean, we'll do this one all day, every day for $3,500.
Yeah.
Nice.
And that's a
I'm
pretty
sure
common
that-
form factor there. Yeah. It's pretty familiar.
It's actually a 1/64th scale, like 2 scale.
Oh, nice.
Like if you're
Articulates, okay.
shop, farmers will get these ones and pull them out in the shop to see if their shop's big enough.
Interesting. Well, yeah. So,
But like that sprayer,
here we go.
you coat booms and everything, right?
Yeah, so this boom from here to here is 60 feet. So the entire width of the machine is 120 feet.
That's a wingspan right
It's
there.
a lot of coating.
That's how many bottles of coating is that?
Yeah.
For a sprayer, it's like 3/4 of one bottle. It's 100 milliliter.
What?
It's because you put it on really thick. Or sorry, God, not thick. Oh my God,
Thin.
you put it
Thin.
You're coating that whole thing with
Not the
a
whole thing, the
3/4
boom.
of 100 milliliter,
He does the booms.
or just the boom.
Just that boom.
the whole thing.
The whole thing, the whole tractor and everything?
What
Yeah,
the
well,
actual heck?
The only thing you can't coat is this little tank because it's stainless. But like we'll do all these wheels, we'll do the cab, the glass,
Painted surfaces.
Anything green, anything black. on there,
3/4 of 100 mil bottle.
I did
Wow.
not know that. That
Wow.
is
Yeah, I
legit
figured
impressive.
5 or 6,
What the
maybe 10
heck?
bottles.
Yeah.
And to think there's
Yes.
detailers who are holding up bottles going, will this cover my whole car?
We got guys that go, well, this cover a Suburban.
I don't know.
That's 100
Oh.
mil. It's a big bottle.
Holy. Wow.
Yeah.
That's
It's
so how much?
something-
What's the cost on that bottle?
$1,000.
Okay, so that's
I mean, it's
cheap.
definitely not your cousin's
Not
cheap
cheap,
coating
yeah.
out there, but he's making the most of it. it
Oh,
seems
so
like,
sorry. So continue on. So that whole boom, general rough cost of that to coat.
If it's brand new, we'll drop it down to $8,500 just because then we don't have to polish any of it.
Yeah.
If it's like 4 or 5 years old, I mean, you're talking 15, 20 grand. But then if it's only a year old, like the one we're doing today, it's right in about that 9 to 10 grand range, right in there somewhere.
Okay.
And you also got to account though too. I have travel fees, so if they're 6 hours away, that might be an extra $300-400. If they're only 30 minutes away, then I'll just waive it. There's a few variables, so like bulk-ish, it just depends.
On a semi-related note there, just because you were talking about intricate versus similar or simple, and just like general surface area determining how much you charge, I was curious about tired versus tracked vehicles. Tracked vehicles, I imagine, much more complicated to try and clean that up. Just a lot more, stuff to get in and around and all that. I don't know how much that affects your pricing.
Not really, because most of the people aren't doing the wheels or the tracked systems
Okay.
unless it's a sprayer. And they only care about if you look at this guy, so he's got, triples on the back.
Right, yeah.
They don't care about the individual ones. They just want this outer one. That's all they care about.
Oh, okay. Interesting. Yeah.
Otherwise, the tracked system is actually more of a pain to clean than anything.
Well, and that's why I was asking. Yeah, because I thought,
Yeah.
man, that's got to be a bear to just get in there and try and clean all the stuff out of
Yeah,
that.
but if you look at it, it goes back. We were talking about this last week when we called to get this scheduled. Was economies of scale. Mm-hmm. I know a lot of detailers are looking at it going like, "Oh my gosh, it'd be awesome to charge 10 grand," but you look at the amount of hours you have in it. So, say on a 10 grand job, how many hours are you guys working on that job?
So
with 4 of you.
4 guys, 20 hours. So that's 80 hours.
Okay. So you've got 80 hours in it. Each guy's working 20 hours. The job's taking 20 hours, but you're paying 4 guys 20 hours, 80 hours worth of labor, right?
Yeah.
Is that how you're doing it? Okay. And then it's $1,000 for the bottle of coating.
Yep.
Plus all your
what your hours
plus
are
what you got to pay the guys and expenses, and it goes right back to if you got a $2,000 coating job and your coating is $200 and you're putting 4 guys on that car and they're getting it done in a couple hours.
Yeah.
The numbers are exactly the same. It's just a smaller job.
Now, that
Just
also...
that's it.
that,
And a lot of people don't understand that, and they go, "What?" But if it's one detailer doing one thing for that amount of time, that's huge. For you doing tractor that big, it is that 80 hour. You're going, it's not a 20-hour job. It's an 80-hour job because it's just me doing it.
No,
So
the other part I was going to ask that leads to that is, how often do you have cancellations, things like that? Because obviously each one of these jobs has a greater impact on its own than like maybe somebody who's doing the casual $120 detail kind of thing like that.
Yeah.
And has a bunch of them. This is bigger stakes that you're.
I'd say once every 3 months, just because it might be in the shop, or they weren't able to, pressure washer broke down, something, there's always something.
Sure. And of those people who do cancel, how many reschedule?
All of them.
Okay, good. So there's not anybody who just flakes out and never comes back.
So we actually had one guy, had him booked. He sent the deposit. Everything was fine. And he was like, I don't want my deposit back, so I'm going to have you come do something else. Calls me a few weeks later. Rather than doing just one tractor, we ended up doing 2 of his and one of his neighbors and his Corvette.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
yeah.
Another farmer with a Corvette.
Yeah.
Dude, it's crazy how common it is to have a farmer with a Corvette or a Mustang.
I bet. No, it makes sense.
Yeah.
You want a sports car? You want to buy American? There you go.
Yeah. That's pretty nuts. Do you have a favorite color tractor that you polished? Is there a favorite? Do you like green?
Favorite single stage
Green?
Well, okay. Green, because I was born on a green farm. And the paint's a little bit better, but red is the most dramatic before and after.
Yeah.
Because it just fades so easily compared to the
Pepto-Bismol to bright hot tamale.
Yeah.
Seriously, I should send you a few photos of it. But green is just, we've done so many of them that it's just, I can do it with my eyes closed practically, versus the reds. It's like, okay, that's new. Oh, that fender's broke. That's pretty typical. It's just different.
So now this is a kind of a funny question, a weird question as well. So, as being a detailer, right? I mean, a car detailer, you have to know your way around a car, right? I mean, if I have to move a car into a garage, into a shop, if I have to pop a hood, I have to pop a trunk, if I have to pop off plastic clips or whatever it is, right? I feel pretty confident in being able to do most of those things, right? Do you ever have to, I don't want to say move a tractor. Do you ever have to you literally know how to function a tractor to be able to do what you do? Or is it just parked and you just, so you do. Yeah. So you say, really? So what do you, do you have to extend a boom? Do you have to what does that look like?
So anytime it's dealing with sprayers, especially if you get the ones with the full carbon fiber booms, like on the new models. Yeah. I mean, it's literally a carbon fiber tube about this big rather than steel. It's wild. But anytime with sprayers, I won't move them just because it's 120 feet out. I don't know their shop, and I just don't want to dink around with it.
Makes sense.
So but if it's a normal tractor, I mean, I think they drive easier than a car. I'm being honest.
Okay. I mean,
it's just a little steering wheel and
I've seen modern tractors and videos of modern tractors that have all the touch screens,
control panels, and
all the control panels, and I go, I don't know what this. You know what I mean? If you were to put me in that, I wouldn't even know how to turn it on. I'd be like, yep.
And you're forklift certified, so is I. And I'm still intimidated.
Yeah. So that's just
the only weird thing is the combines. We actually had one in our shop the other day. I'll have to send you guys a picture of that one too. But we have a 14-foot tall door, and I had a foot from hitting the ceiling. Or our door is 20 feet wide, and I had 6 inches on each side. And I had to back that combine in. And not only that, the auger from the main body sticks out 15 feet from the back end. So when you're moving it, I mean, you got to kind of be aware of what you're doing.
Speaking of economies of scale.
Yeah. No, I wouldn't know that. I wouldn't know the first thing.
Yeah.
I just literally be
precision driving there. Now, this also, I realize we're kind of taking you back away from your Facebook stuff, but this just brought up some new questions, which was, okay, you were mentioning the age of some of the tractors and implements and stuff you're working on. Is there typically an average age at which you notice farmers just kind of ditch their old equipment and get new stuff? Or are there some people who really do just like to hold on to it until the bitter end and just keep it running? I imagine it becomes less profitable after things start to wear down and maintenance becomes a big cost for them.
Well, it's not necessarily the maintenance, it's all the emission stuff. So like pre-def tractors right now are going for an absolute premium. Like in just the last 2 or 3 years, you've seen those tractors going up 30, 40 grand in price.
So when you say def, you're talking about diesel fluid?
Exhaust fluid, yeah.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the biggest kicker. Now, granted, you can delete tractors. There's a guy that goes around the country, and for $4,000 a tractor, he'll just pop his computer in and tune tractors, which is
just so you can roll coal in your tractor.
Also a fantastic business model. I mean, that guy,
the EPA loves him.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, seriously, if that's all you got to do, and you're going in and telling these farmers, "Hey, I don't have to do this. You don't have to run this," they're like, "Wow, you just saved me over the course of the life of the tractor."
Yeah.
Def fluid and all that stuff.
great.
So yeah,
you got
to
to
your
understand, a
point.
lot of these tractors.
Plus, they're operating them on their own land.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you understand the fuel tanks alone in these things is like 200-300 gallons of diesel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, hell, even some of the combines have 1,000 gallon.
That's pretty crazy. Yeah, that's nuts.
Yeah, I was just curious, like the age of these things, because you were talking about what the guy had like a 15-year-old, set of vehicles versus the 1-year-old stuff. So I just didn't know, like, as far as most of the tractors you work on, are they frequently newer, or are they actually generally like older, like maybe early mid 2000s stuff, or even prior?
2012 and newer is 90% of what we do.
Now, is there any particular reason for that, or is it just kind of the way it is?
So, Dane, if you want to talk about depreciation,
yeah,
this stuff, I mean, a brand new one, you're talking 600 grand. And in 2 years, it'll be worth 400 grand. And in 5 years, it's going to be worth like 210. So now that it's past that, it's depreciated down so far, it allows basically the farmer to upgrade. Yeah. So what if it has 2,200 hours on it and it's 10 years old? It still has full self-driving capability, just like a brand new one. There's no difference.
Sure.
And it's free emissions, so they don't have to mess with the DEF. And it just makes sense for them, I guess.
No, it's certainly appealing to
Well, then you have you guys come in and polish it all up and cut it all up and make it look nice, and then no one tells the difference.
No, that's exactly what I was curious about. So thank you. Yeah. So back to your Facebook list. I know there were some other people asking questions as well.
Yeah. Let's see what we can pull up here.
What was the guy? Okay, there was one guy in particular who kind of badgered you a bit. He was getting upset. What was that all about? It was a little back and forth, a little spicy.
Yeah, so he was saying how he's detailed Deere equipment 30 years ago, and it's no different than vehicles, just a lot bigger. And yeah, let's see what he said here. Detailed John Deere equipment for 2 summers, only 2. Okay. The field polished them at the beginning. Guy worked for in Nebraska, clean and shine, and he did for years. I don't.
Anyway, I was just curious.
It goes back to every. It's just a detailer.
Yeah.
That I could tell you that a detailing a boat is no different than detailing a car in theory.
Mm-hmm. You get
you're
the guys
still cleaning the interior, you're still polishing the outside, and you're still washing it. However, the substrate is completely different.
Yes.
When you're working on a boat rather than that alpha behind it.
Yeah, when you're talking
and it's the same thing with a single stage paint job on a tractor than it is on a car.
And to that point, I was going to point out, as someone who's done a number of educational videos about detailing, we've all done this stuff here. When you have the people who are essentially doing the teaching saying paint is paint and don't get too worked up about it, they're really just trying to put you at ease when you're starting out. It's like, okay, get you a little more comfortable with the idea of working on it, not to be too up in your head or get over intimidated about something. That's the point of when people are talking about that. But as you get further into it, then you can understand the intricacies of different types of substrates.
Yeah, when I say that Lamborghini paint is nothing different than a Volkswagen Beetle paint, it's exactly the same.
Sure.
Yeah.
But yes, there's a cost difference.
The other one here is, I see you have a step ladder on the picture in regards to the size of the vehicle. What tools and equipment are you utilizing to be efficient?
Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah. I mean, I would definitely say an airbrush or like a paint gun loaded with coating is definitely nice for the sprayers. Now we're not out here. I mean, it can barely, I have it so turned down that it'll barely move my arm hair. So it's just a very light, and that's how I can only use one bottle of coating because I barely use any. Like I want 2 super thin layers versus 1 thick layer, right? So I get even coverage. I'd say that, and anytime we're doing like a combine that's 14 feet tall from the ground. I mean, the tires alone are 6 foot tall, so you need a ladder just to get onto the tires. But I'd say a scaffolding or a scissor lift is definitely nice to have.
Are those things that you rent when you're in the area of like a job or something, or are those things provided by the farmer, perhaps?
So we have a scaffolding, but it's only I want to say a 10. No, it's not 10 foot. It's whatever the Harbor Freight yellow ones are.
The kind that like guys who do window cleaning would use or something.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
But otherwise, most farmers, they have a loader with a bucket on it. And I'll usually just have 2 of my guys hop in the bucket and I'll drive it up to the combine and just raise them up to do some areas.
Yeah. A little farm engineering for you. That works.
Hay bales. Stacking hay bales.
Why not?
Climb up them. Yeah. That's pretty, it's pretty cool. And so you're at these farms all the time. The smells of a farm, right? There's lots of smells, right? There's lots of different types of farm, right? But like, do you ever get tired of it? You ever get tired of being like, I'm out here in a farm, or you grew up with it? So I'm assuming you're probably used to it. Does that make sense? It's kind of like
Well, it really depends, because I'll say this much: when we're up by Fargo, it's so much fun. Like we'll just get an Airbnb about 45 minutes away, and we'll just drive to Fargo, and we always get like good steaks, or we always try to have
nice.
Yeah.
Versus you know where Minot is in Fargo?
Nope. Have no idea.
Nope. You know where Canada is on the North Dakota border? Okay, we're about 15 minutes away from that, from the Canadian border. Middle of nowhere. No gas stations. I mean, we had to get fuel at the farmer's place because there's no towns. The closest town was like an hour and a half away.
Oh, wow.
And that sucked.
Yeah. Yeah, I could see. Yeah,
especially for you want to go into town, get some snacks.
Well, I'm just, we're gas station people, right? So it's like
total gas station.
If I'm about to do a detail, right? I got a car in the garage, or if I'm going somewhere, like my first stop is grab a bag of gummies, tear that thing open, right? Start letting that air out. Grab myself an energy drink or 2 or whatever I'm going to have for the day, and then I'm able to kind of zen out. But if it's literally like no gas station, no nothing, I go, crap.
I'm out of my gummies. I'm out of my drink.
I'm packing it all in.
Yeah.
Right. You know what I mean?
Throw it in a backpack and take it to the job, I guess.
Yeah. So that is interesting.
We did have to do that in Dahlonega once for the CERM Summit, where we stopped at Walmart, got a couple coolers.
We did.
Filled it. Did some grocery shopping and filled it, because when we got out there, we're like, oh man, there's no place to go get snacks.
Yeah.
The last time we were out there.
So on these jobs, how often do you find yourself... I mean, we kind of already talked about this, but I'm just curious, like percentage-wise, how often are you in a really remote place versus farms that are actually close to some semblance of civilization? I mean, I know it's all rural, but...
I would say most of the time we're pretty close to a town. Now, my version of close is within an hour of driving, which is about 80 to 100 miles.
Sure.
Versus somebody else's definition might be different. But I'd say anytime we're up in North Dakota, it gets pretty isolated, versus Iowa's pretty nice. Nebraska's really just all over the place. You could be in some parts where it's like, wow, there's been times where we've actually coated equipment next door to a Hy-Vee because the farmer owned a shop on the back side of a Hy-Vee or something, like weird stuff like that. Because the Hy-Vee was on the end of town, and on the back side of it was the farmer's shop. Like, it's just
thing. So, any final words there for people before we round this one out?
Not really. I guess if anybody's interested in seeing like photos and videos of all the stuff we do, if you just check out Mad Garage on Facebook, I think you might have to type in Mitchell, South Dakota after it, because I think other ones. I get so many calls of people thinking I'm the Mad Detailing down in Florida. That guy on YouTube.
Funny.
Yeah.
Even though I was in business before him, but his YouTube channel is just more popular. Oh my gosh. Every time somebody calls me, like, thinking, oh my God, he's in South Dakota. I thought he was in Florida. It's like, no. But yeah. So
You know
just
what? Though? That's a little marketing for yourself. That's an opportunity to be like, hey, do you have a tractor?
So funny. Hey,
We'll go to Florida.
Well, I got you on the phone here. Know anybody with a tractor?
Oh man. On that note, Spencer, thank you so much. We really appreciate it. I hope you have a great day.
Yeah,
and,
dude. Thank you for taking the time.
Yeah, keep us up to speed on your adventures going forward out there in the Brad Company Facebook group. Keep posting pictures. We love to see it. All right, man. You take care.
Sounds good, guys. Thanks.
Have a good one.
See ya.
Yep.
Wow, guys. So that was actually a really, I was fascinated the whole time. Spencer, while he may not be a household name the way that some of like Dylan or Adam may be, that's not to discount anything here. I felt like he had a compelling story, and it's an interesting angle of detailing. I mean, it's still detailing, but it's just different than I normally understand.
Well, and I love that he's 25.
Yeah, he's a young guy. We didn't even talk about
He's completely built his own niche.
Yeah.
Right? He's created his own market.
Yeah.
Which
awesome.
is absolutely insane.
He has employees as a 25-year-old owner of a business.
4 employees.
Already got 4 employees.
Yeah.
He's made a niche for himself. I mean, he's killing it out there.
No, it's amazing. I mean, at 25, I think
What were you doing?
25, there was a lot of Vegas nights, and there was a lot of music festivals and a lot of things like that. And a lot of body oil and muscles, right?
That took a turn.
Well, that's just what it was like at working for a bodybuilding company. But I mean, seeing what he's being able to do at 25,
that's
having
insane.
the employees, and then just having that business structure, right, and having that drive, dude, it's awesome.
No,
awesome.
seriously,
it's so
awesome.
cool. It's so cool, and I think it's giving a lot of people ideas, right? I imagine that almost every single person listening to this podcast was probably like, well, maybe I should do tractors, right? You know what I mean?
When they're hearing the numbers involved, don't forget the amount of work
Tons
that's
of
also
work.
involved.
Yep.
But if you're comparing it to, okay, I have
This
to
is
work
the same-
on several cars
Yeah.
day in, day out, and for a lot less money versus doing a giant tractor and crawling all over it, but having a very nice paycheck at the end of it, what would you prefer to do? Tell me in the comments below.
Well, I was going to
which
say, this is
the
a
move for
very
you.
similar to the guys that are on the coast that are doing the yachts.
Yeah.
They're doing
Yes.
yacht detailing.
Hard
Or
to do in Idaho.
or the guys that are working primarily in aircraft and doing aircraft detailing. There are different rules that apply for watercraft and aircraft and farm equipment than just standard detailing. So, what he said is true. Get some training behind it. Learn, what the substrate is that you're actually working on, because just like in marine or just like a plane, it's very different, and you can mess some stuff up if you're not careful. But those jobs all pay really well because of, again, sense of scale. Those items are far more expensive than your run-of-the-mill Scion TC, right? Like you're going to have something that's
willing to part with a bit more in terms of funds, because of the value of the thing being detailed.
Yeah, but kudos to Spencer being out in the middle of nowhere and finding that niche and making a hell of a good living at it, and getting a good living for his guys. I love seeing that.
True.
I love how he was telling us about it. One of his guys bought a house.
Yeah.
When I owned my shop, that was probably one of my favorite things, was when my guys would buy a car, or they'd be able to buy a house. And that was one of the things that made me feel good, because it meant the business was doing good.
Yeah.
And
I guess the other angle to this whole thing, if anything, I hope this inspires some people who maybe we're getting into detailing. You see the videos, the pictures. Oh my God, I want to go detail exotic cars, all this kind of stuff. I mean, the people who detail exotic cars will frequently tell you, with a few exceptions of like weird materials used to build some cars, it's mostly just like working on other cars. But when you're trying to fantasize about what you're oh my God, that's the detailing I want to do. What if you replace exotic cars with farm equipment?
right.
And just put that on a poster on your wall. Put that in like the cool show off, carousel post online or on a calendar or something like that. You're like, yeah, that's right. John Deere.
Yeah, baby. Yeah, no, it's super cool. So Spencer, if you're listening, watching this back, thank you so much for being on the show. You absolutely killed it. Very interesting. Who knows? People might want to know more, right? So we might have to have you back here on a future podcast.
Yeah. And hey, what if he ends up starting his own training company to train people on how to do this stuff?
He kind of like
could,
without
right?
saying that he opened
man.
the door to that during this interview. So
The world is your oyster. The world is your tractor.
Do anything.
so much time,
Yeah, that's
so much
my
room for
tractor.
opportunity.
Yeah, she thinks my tractor, or they think my tractor's sexy.
Yeah, there you go.
After it's been coated, right?
After it's been coded.
So on that note, I hope you guys found this as interesting and entertaining as we did. Give Spencer a follow. He does really interesting work, and he posts quite a bit. So he's always engaged there in the Facebook group online for the Rag Company, as well as, he's got his own YouTube channel he's building out, as he told us. So go check it out. And, So leave a comment below who you'd like to see next time. Perhaps there's somebody who has an interesting niche that they work on that's not something we're necessarily aware of today. I'd love to find out more of like these cool kind of like just in the recesses, the corners, people you don't even notice, but we want to bring them to the fore so that more people could find out about them. That'd be cool. All right, guys. Well, take care. Have a great week, and we'll catch you on the next one.
See ya.
See ya.
See ya.